Ridgeview yesterday, and one of them, and the other one got it at Norton this afternoon.
Norton, this afternoon.
The January meeting of the Wise County School Board will now please come to order. Let us stand, I say the Pledge of Allegiance, have a moment of silence following the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And please be seated. And actually, Mrs. Durham, would you please form the roll call?
Ms. Williams. Ms. Jack. Mr. Short.
Here.
Mr. Graham.
Here.
Dr. Raymond.
Here.
Ms. Kern.
Ms. Kern will not be with us tonight. She informed both the chair and the superintendent.
Mr. Bates.
Here.
Mr. Griggs.
Here. Tonight's meeting is divided into two parts. The first part would be the organizational part of the meeting. At the beginning of every year, we have to establish election of the chair, vice chair, certain other committee members and things, and so it'll last a few minutes, and then we'll close it out and begin with a regular meeting. But at this time, control of the board is relinquished to Dr. Mullins.
Thank you, Mr. Greer. At this time, I will ask the board for nominations for chairman.
I nominate Larry.
I'll second.
Mr. Greer for chairman. Are there further nominations? Having none, I will ask for all those in favor of Mr. Greer, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and Mr. Greer is elected as our new chair. Mr. Greer, I will turn the meeting over to you at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins, and thank the board for your confidence. Now we come up to the section 5.1. Now we have a chair. We need to have a vice chair. Is there a motion or nomination for vice chair?
I nominate Philip Bates.
Philip?
I second.
Any other nominations? Okay. Then those in favor of Mr. Bates serving as vice chairman for the upcoming calendar year, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Or you like, congratulations, Mr. Bates. We have to now to determine the clerk of the board, the deputy clerk of the board, and the school board attorney, and the superintendent designee, in case Dr. Mullins is not available. I would like to, if it's okay, to do this as a block. For the clerk of the board, they have Judy Durham. For deputy clerk of the board, it's recommended that Dr. Beth Shoup serve again. For the school board attorney, it's recommended that Mr. Scott Mullins, our current attorney, serve again. And for the superintendent designee, it's recommended that Dr. Marcia Short fill that position. Is it okay with the board to vote on it as a block? Anyone have any objection to that? Okay, those in favor of accepting these recommendations that I just read for the year of 2021 calendar year and up to next year, please let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right. And let's go down to item number 6. Meeting logistics. The meeting day and time, it's been the second Tuesday at 6 p.m. Is anyone still need to change that? Okay, is there a motion to retain that time and date as our regular meeting date?
So moved.
Who was that, Martha?
Martha, I'll second it.
Okay. Those in favor of retaining the second Tuesday at 6 p.m. for our meeting date, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Next thing is our operational rules. It's Webster's Rules of Order Simplified and Applied. It's this book right here, red, white, and blue, makes it all American except for a little bit of gold on the trim, but it's sort of swell. Is there a motion to approve the Webster's or Robert's Rules of Order Simplified and Applied for our operational rules this coming year?
So moved.
Okay, John. And is there a second?
I second.
Those in favor of using Robert's Rules of Order Simplified Applied for the upcoming year, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? No? Okay, motion carries. Is there any, 6.3, is there any change in any protocol that you would wish to inject at the first of the year? Everybody's okay with it? Okay, then we'll just continue with the same protocol with no new additions or changes. Let's go down to number 7, appointments and committees. Now, what I have here right now are the, I read those off to you, the ones that are serving currently. There are about 6 committees. The Governor's School, we have Vicki Williams, who's currently serving in that capacity. The Special Education Advisory Board is Donnice Kern. The Wise County Career and Technical Board is Herbert Short. Wise County Educational Foundation is Martha Jett. The Salary Scale Committee, we have 2 members on that. That's Donnice Kern and Herb Short. And the Retirement Planning Committee, we have John Graham and Philip Bates. Is anyone that I read off not willing to serve on the committee that I read off for you? I'd like just to retain you because everybody does a great job. Okay, is there any objection from the board for us to entertain the motion to accept these as a block? Then, do I hear a motion to accept these committee members as a block?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
That was Martha, okay. Right, slowly, by the time I look up, it's all gone. Okay. So Philip made the motion, and Martha made the second. Those in favor of retaining the current committee members for the upcoming year, let it be known by aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. And Donnice is not here, but I did check with her by phone to verify that she would be willing to serve on those committees that she's assigned to here. So she's okay with it. Okay, having completed our organizational meeting, the organizational meeting is now adjourned. And now we go to the agenda for our regularly scheduled meeting for January. And I guess to stay with the program, follow all the protocols, we'll just call the meeting to order and stand one more time for a pledge. This time, say it like you really mean it.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and please be seated, and I'm gonna, just for the record, for our minutes, Mrs. Durham, would you please form roll call one more time, please?
Miss Williams? Here. Miss Jett?
Here.
Mr. Short?
Here.
Mr. Graham?
Here.
Dr. Raymond?
Here.
Miss Kern?
Not here.
Mr. Bates?
Here.
Mr. Greer?
Here. Now that we've crossed all of our Ts and dotted our Is, we can proceed with our January meeting. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor of approving tonight's agenda, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The agenda is approved. And school highlights, Dr. Mullins.
Thank you, Mr. Greer. Members of the board, I'd like to start our highlights tonight by recognizing two individuals who have served Wise County Public Schools for a number of years, faithfully served for a number of years, and who retired right before our Christmas break. And, you know, it's always a bittersweet moment. We certainly always want those that we employ to leave when they choose to leave and when it's a good time for them and their family. And we always wish them the very best in their next chapter of their lives. But it's also somewhat a sad time for us because these individuals, in almost all cases, have been with us for a long period of time, and we certainly will miss them. But the first individual I would like to recognize tonight is Mr. Marvin Collins, who faithfully served as custodian at our Alternative Education Center for the past 10 years. So, Mr. Collins.
All right. Yeah, there you go.
The next individual that we want to recognize tonight, I certainly miss him, my old truck. I'm not sure I'll be able to keep it on the road with him not being around, but we'll try to press on as best we can. But Mr. Dennis Mullins faithfully served an automotive technology at a career center for the past 32 years. And members of the board and all that's in attendance tonight. As I said earlier, we will certainly miss these guys, but we wish them the very best and hope that they have happy and healthy and prosperous retirements.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I also wanted to mention to you tonight that we're pleased to report that many of our employees received their first COVID vaccine the last couple of days and will continue throughout this week. And we have many others that are scheduled to receive theirs in upcoming days. When we first put out our survey, I think we were maybe a little less than 50%. And in talking with Joyce and Scott, that number has risen considerably. And I think we've moved, I'm not sure, Scott, what the percentage is, but we've certainly almost doubled our initial response in recent days. And so we feel this is a very positive step as we move toward defeating this dreaded virus. And while at the vaccination side, many of our employees were there, counselors, administrators, teachers, bus drivers, and so it was a welcome sight indeed. But the process itself, once we met with the Department of the Virginia Department of Health officials and our local health department on Thursday, and the announcement we got during that meeting was that sometime on Friday, we would have the opportunity to begin this process and make sure everything was uploaded. And as soon as that occurred, then we would be given sites and we'd be able to pick dates. And so it all was a real fast-moving ball rolling downhill. But I do want to certainly recognize all of those on our staff that helped with that process and are continuing to work on it. But in particular, Mr. Kaiser and Joyce Addington worked all through the weekend and have continued that work today, and we're doing multiple uploads per day to try to make sure that anyone that has an interest in the vaccine is able to get one and get that scheduled. And so, again, we are optimistic that those that have an interest, we can get that first one done real quickly and then move on to round 2. And again, we think that will be one of the steps that we need to take in order for things to return to a somewhat more normal operation for us. And so we are pleased to report that. I know that Scott has uploaded those board members that have an interest, and some may have already scheduled. I don't know where you're at in that process, but I think that's, if you've not had your vaccination yet, I think that's on the way really quickly. So do want to let you know that we're very pleased that we've been able to get in that first round or start down that path. I also want to mention tonight, Mr. Chair, members of the board, that our Commonwealth will celebrate Virginia School Principals Appreciation Week during the week of January 20 through the 24th. And of course, as you're aware, being a school administrator is difficult on the very best days, although it's very rewarding. But since last March in particular, it has been an extremely difficult task. Leading hybrid learning, virtual learning, in-person learning, becoming an amateur health expert, implementing screening and social distancing and PPEs and cleaning and disinfecting has sort of become an everyday part of life as a school administrator. And as I've shared with our principals, there are occasions such as weekends and holidays when they're not actually at school, but they're really never off. Building administrator, as some of you know, you're always on. You always have to be there, be prepared to deal with any number of things that may arise, and certainly during this time of that we've been dealing with this pandemic, it has been extremely difficult. And so they have worked tirelessly to put the health and safety and well-being of our students and staff first, and trying to meet their needs, especially our most vulnerable populations, and they have made the impossible possible. And so we will celebrate with our principals, and I would like to ask that you join me during the week of the 24th through the 30th in recognizing their impact on our school communities. And Mr. Chair, that is all of the highlights we have for this week, for this month.
Thank you, sir. And I too wish to commend Scott and Joyce on their efforts on behalf of what they've been doing to get these vaccinations rolling, and done a great job. It's not an easy one, and a lot of complicated steps involved in it. But thank you so much. And I also, our principals need to be recognized. That's for sure. That's January 24th through the 30th. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent items as presented?
So moved.
Okay, Mark. And is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent items. Those in favor of approving the consent items as presented to us, let it be known by aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 7, approval of the minutes. Now, these are the minutes from December the 8th. Is that correct? December the 8th minutes. Are there any changes, deletions, or additions to make to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
And is there a second?
I second.
Those in favor of approving the minutes on December 8th as presented to us, let it be known by aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And the motion carries and minutes are approved. Item number 8, educational reports. Dr. Mullins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, we have with us Mr. Paul Clark from WCUA, who will share news and other exciting events going on in the WCEA. Mr. Clark.
How you doing? Good afternoon, good evening. It seems like I was just here because Christmas was just here. I do want you to, we didn't mention Senator Schaefer at the beginning. You know, he was a big supporter of education in Southwest Virginia, and he passed away last week of COVID, Ben Chafin, Jr. And I know it's going to be a big kick in education to get a new person to replace him. It's going to be difficult to replace someone like Ben Chafin.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Paul. Who did you say it was?
Ben Chafin.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
His wife and I and Marsh were at CVC together back in the day, and you know he went to Emory and Henry. Like I said, he if we ever needed him, the district office is right beside his office in Lebanon. So if we need to ever ask him anything, he was always welcome, and he was always willing to come next door and answer questions. Like I said, it sort of floored me last week when that happened. We were scheduled to have a district meeting with delegates, but because of his death, that has been rescheduled to later in the month, or possibly February, with Terry Kilgore and Israel and Todd Pillion, like we usually do every January. But since Ben Chafin died, all that's been rescheduled. So basically, I'm not hearing anything from teachers right now because we're all back at virtual and in-person and testing. So it seems like everything's going well. The snow's not helping us at all. And I think the schedule changes that you've done so far this year with the weather have been on target. So, yeah, Mark does well. The lady, I don't know, I guess it was a pre-recording this morning, but thank you for all you're doing. I know you're on top of things. Keep in touch with issues that are going on in education. Dr. Fetterman, who is the president of VEA, wanted to pass a thing last week. I don't know if it's gone through yet, of making sure that children are offered the vaccine so they can return as soon as possible and get, whether it's in person or virtual. But that was one of his pushes last week that he sent out to VEA members. So I'm short and sweet tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And I should have mentioned Mr. Chafin's at the beginning of the meetings, oversight on the part of the chair. But his, his loss will certainly impact us in this region in education, that's for sure.
Mr. Chair, we don't have a report from our Principals Association this month, so that's all of our educational reports.
Okay, thank you, sir. Floor is now open for public comments for anyone wishing to address the board. See no one. Public comments is closed. Discussion items, 10.1. The first item is response to the public comment. There's none, is that correct?
No, sir.
10.2, technology virtual learning update.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, at this time I'd ask Mr. Kaiser to come forward and share information with you regarding our technology program as well as an update on our virtual learning platform. Mr. Kaiser.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins, and members of the board. Planned on doing this last month, but wasn't able to be with you and wanted to come back tonight and just very quickly share a technology update with you because there's been obviously a lot going on. But going to backtrack just a little bit and go back to the beginning when school was turned out last spring. We quickly kind of become concerned of what this school year was going to be looking like. So, as we've shared with you before, there was a lot of things that had to take place before school could start this year. We did some teacher training and tried to support them throughout the summer as they stood up their classes online platforms to provide instruction in different ways, whether that be remote instruction, our hybrid, which would have included in-person combined with remote learning. And, they were going to be supporting students with or without internet access at home. So, with all these thought processes, we quickly put together some training that would maybe better help our teachers be prepared for whatever they faced in this school year. And, my technology coaches did a fabulous job this summer of getting these trainings up and going, and not only providing training to teachers, but multiple times throughout the week, they would just host online office hours so that teachers could connect and have their questions answered. And, we would try to help them through a lot of those things. But we had to be preparing to deploy devices because we have a lot of students that needed devices to use at home. We knew that there was a possibility that all students would be at home and most of them need devices. But we also knew that there might be an in-person component at some point during the year. So we had to, be prepared for both options. And then, of course, we also knew here in our area that internet access was going to be a real big problem for us. Some initial surveys and information we had kind of told us that around 30% of our students, didn't have access to good internet. However, what we found once we got started is that data limitations ended up meaning that a lot of our folks who had internet, were very limited in what they could do, so they may as well not have had it in some instances. So that pushed it up to almost 40% of our students without adequate internet to support online learning. So, those are some challenges that we've been facing. First and foremost, I've just got to start out here with our teachers. They did just what we anticipated they would do. Obviously, they were very nervous, lost a lot of sleep, probably had a lot of anxiety on what this school year would look like. But anybody that has worked with educators and knows how teachers are, man, they adapt and they go. They turn a bad situation into the best they can possibly make it. And that's exactly what we've seen. However, there are some things that I don't think they get enough credit for because, now our teachers have turned into our frontline technicians. If a student's in that class and they're having technology problems, we found we can build a remote learning website that gives tutorials and offers technical assistance and those kind of things. But at the end of the day, those students, those parents, they're going to reach out to their teachers. And, on top of asking them to be, nurses at the beginning of the day where they're checking temperatures and doing questionnaires to make sure people get out, the ball rolls down here and our teachers catch a lot of it. But, we're very thankful for the work that they've done instructionally, but otherwise as well. And technology coaches, I can't speak enough to those guys that do that work for us. And maybe, another time when we can have some more folks with us, we'll get them back in here and acknowledge all the work that they've done. But I got email after email after email this fall just thanking me, for the work that these guys do for them, along with the technicians who are trying to make them ensure that things go smoothly. So our technicians have found, remote support is very difficult. We're used to having the devices right there with us. If there's a problem, we can just go right into the classroom to the device where the student's at, fix that problem, and move on in most circumstances. But when you've got these issues happening and students are away from us and, maybe the parents at home aren't very tech savvy or different things like that, it's a lot harder to try to walk people through their issues when they're not there in front of you. But they've done a fabulous job, and we kind of anticipated we'd have a lot of damaged devices along the way, having to send them home with students, and that has proven to be true. We did get accidental protection coverage on most of our devices, and it's a good thing because we definitely need it. Cracked screens, keys missing, it's dropped, just doesn't work anymore. My screen goes black, won't power on, you name it, we've seen it. And, but thankfully things are going well. That accidental protection has really paid off, paid some big dividends for us. Then you go to our administration and our staff, and I want to mention them too because when we start talking about deploying devices, and I know you all recall that we were coming back to school, but then we decided to go all virtual, just go all remote learning at a meeting right before school started. And so that meant the good plan that we had in place had to be adjusted a little bit. But our administrators and all the staff in the schools, the minute that they found out we needed to do it, we deployed 4,000 devices in just a matter of a few days. And we're talking about taking them out of carts, getting the chargers ready to go home, getting the devices assigned to kids, inventorying so we knew what students had what devices. All those types of things had to happen. And the administration and the staff in the schools, they shouldered a lot of that load. I'm looking at Union Middle School in my mind right now, where in the cafeteria we had teachers dismantling carts, lining them up, putting chargers on one cart, the devices on another, rolling them out, had lines of cars through the front entrance and through the back, had different grade levels coming to different places and just deploying those devices. So there was really a lot that went into it, but I want to thank, the teachers and the staff and the administrators and all those folks who pitched in to make it go, as smooth as it did, because, without them, it would have, could have been a nightmare. But things went very, very smooth. And, when you consider the number of devices that we put out. But our biggest problem has been connectivity. In whatever situation we've been in this year, there are those students that are not coming to school, that are learning remotely. And when you have students that are connected to the internet, that is, much smoother than when they're not. We did stand up the training this summer with that student in mind who didn't have internet access but may need their work delivered to them, either paper packets, or we could put that work on jump drives and take it to them. But in all honesty, unless they're, when they're connected to the internet, it's just a much better situation. Communication is better, interaction is better, because they can truly, be part of the class. So that's what we've been focused on since school really got started, and we got going really well. We were fortunate enough to get the Vision grant through the state, that we got nearly $180,000 to connect students to the internet. And with that, we have purchased Verizon jetpacks. Those jetpacks are basically mobile hotspots that have unlimited data on them, and they also do not get throttled. If you got a personal hotspot from your phone, you probably notice after 10 gigabit of data used, it slows down a whole lot. So Verizon came out with a pandemic plan, so to speak, that allowed us to purchase these devices and get service on them through this school year. Their kind of language says till the pandemic's declared over, or July 1st, that we were able to purchase these at a very discounted rate for some good service for our students. One of the things is you have to live in an area where cell phone service is available, and as y'all are well aware, we still got places in our county where that's not a reality for some of our folks. So we've continued to look for other options and ways to connect students, looking for every way we possibly can. I will say right now we're working with Comcast. They have addresses of all of our students that potentially could use some internet still and don't have it, and we're trying to get them to they're going to return that back to us, and we can purchase a voucher through their Internet Essentials program using that Vision grant that I discussed. And then we'd be able to give our students a voucher, and they could go on and sign up for 1 year of service through Comcast Internet Essentials. So we're getting close on that, just waiting on Comcast to bring me back that information, and then we'll start looking to see how many kids we can serve that way as well. One of the biggest things that's been going on right now is Starlink through SpaceX. I know Dr. Mullins mentioned that to you all before the break. But basically, this is low orbit satellite internet. Satellite internet's been around for a long time, but those satellites are a great distance away from us, which means the signal has to travel very far. What SpaceX has put out with Starlink is low orbit satellite internets, which cuts that latency time and things down. So Mr. Jack Kennedy, the clerk of the circuit court here in Wise County, reached out, and we had a conversation one day about engaging SpaceX in a conversation to see if they could serve some of our students. And that progressed very, very quickly. It went from a conversation with him, can you give me addresses, and I kind of need those in 2 days, of all the students that would be, within this radius. So I provided that information, and the next thing you know, Dr. Mullins and myself, Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Hatfield were sitting around having a conversation, and, the Vision grant allowed us to pay for the service, to get the Starlink beta up and going. So we've gotten the kits in. We're distributing those kits for self-installs, parents that want to install them themselves. They've got those, and then we're going to be going out the next couple of weeks, and we're going to install these for some of our students that need it and can't install it themselves. So, as a matter of fact, today a few of my technicians spent time, making the plan on going out for different installation type scenarios. But we are able to serve 45 homes, which, probably an average of 2 kids per home is probably good. So, 90 of our students are going to be served through this. One of the exciting things is conversations are already underway because during this beta project that they allowed us to be part of, we had to service students within a certain polygon that they gave us. We're hoping that after we get these installed and see that these 45 are being served well, that SpaceX will agree to allow us to expand that to 90 more homes, potentially. And, so we're very, very excited that may continue for us. But, that we are the first school division in Virginia, but we're also one of the first school divisions in the country to have this, installed and leverage it to connect our students. One of the things I always like to say when we talk about this is that, our students needed service now. In a lot of these places where internet's not available, for internet service providers to provide service to these areas where these folks are at, for the most part, takes a lot of investment in infrastructure. There's a lot of build out time. You're looking at 5 to 10 years. If they had the money and worked hard, it'd be 5 to 10 years before some of these homes could get connected. What this opportunity did for us is it connected them now so that they can have that online learning experience. So to say we were excited about that, it would be a great understatement. One of the things especially with technology concerns us when our devices and things are going out is keeping our kids safe while they're using it. One of the things I just wanted to bring to the board's attention is that devices that we send out that belong to us, if you bought your child their own laptop and it's your wireless internet, that's your supervision. If we're providing the device, we're required to make sure that device is filtered. So all of our devices that go out, they came back through our internet filter, so students are filtered at home. So they can't just browse any website or go places, that they want to. It still is filtered as if they were on site with us. One of the things I did want to tell you about is a program called BARK. And we're a G Suite school division, which means all of our teachers and students and staff have Google accounts. And what BARK does is it monitors those accounts, uses artificial intelligence. And if kids are on there and they start typing things, whether that's about weapons, suicidal thoughts, if it sees bullying or anything else like that, then we are alerted. And it gives us a snapshot of what's there. So that's been instrumental. And I can't tell you the number of calls I've made on the weekend, because when we have knowledge of these things, especially if a student starts having starts talking suicidal language, we're liable. We're responsible. We're required reporters. So we've made phone calls on weekends. We've alerted administrators on weekends, and everybody's been very responsive, to reach out and get that situation taken care of. But this has been a great tool because we know that students not being in their normal environment has been very difficult for a lot of them. So, we're very thankful that we're using this program. And, the best thing about this program is it's at no cost. This derived from, after some school shootings and different things, some nonprofits and things come together and wanted to put this out there. You can, individuals can buy this for their home, for personal use with their kids, and they have to pay for it. But they made this available to schools at no charge, and it's been very good for us. Just to give you outside of the virtual learning process, just some other things have been going on. We put in a new phone system across the school division. What technology director is crazy enough in the middle of a pandemic and preparing for online learning to go and install a new phone system across the county? But we were able to get that done. It saved us significant amounts of money, on our current phone solution that we had in place. We've also just got word not too long ago that we received a security grant. It was a lot later getting the news out this year because the governor's office and the Department of Education has been pretty busy. But we got just short of $100,000 to shore up, some things with our security around our schools with that grant. you know, I'm proud to say, you know, you probably heard a lot of things were on back order. We had school divisions and some even close to us that were having a hard time getting devices before school started this year. You know, and I want to thank, you know, Dr. Shoup and, you know, Dr. Short, between the different programs that we have, you know, Title I and federal programs with, you know, Dr. Shoup in finance, you know, we had more than enough devices for our students already here. We didn't have to scramble around and order 1,000 or 1,500 extra devices to put devices in our students' hands. And, you know, very thankful for that, because there were school divisions that were starting remote instruction without devices. They didn't have enough for their kids. With all the you know, technologies in high demand, so that creates things being on back order. I'm proud to say that we've already purchased the devices that we need to replace in our replacement cycle to have next year ready to go. They're over in the warehouse and ready. We were, you know, my concern was that if we wait like we normally do until the spring to order that, those devices weren't going to be back. And I fully anticipate when those devices come back in over the summer, we're going to find a lot of devices come back into us that are not very usable. So we've got that ready to go. And what I'm going to stop with tonight, and we'll come back in another month or two and give another technology update. I didn't want to be up here too long. But we have updated the Wise County Schools website, and now we have our own mobile app. You know, in a perfect world, I'd like to just, you know, take down our Facebook page, because people can comment and do some things there. But if you download the Wise County Schools mobile app, it's available in the App Store and on Google Play. So regardless of what kind of smartphone you got, you know, you can go download our app. When you download it, then you can choose which schools you want notifications from and all that. But all things Wise County Schools, you know, kind of at your fingertips. You know, so we're proud. We wanted to improve communication, especially now during a pandemic, and we hope that this becomes a tool that we utilize, you know, more and more. So we've got the word out, shared a video, you know, just before the new year, explaining to folks how to go. So if you want to go to our website or our Facebook page, you'll find that down in the live feed and be able to watch that video. We'll be sharing that out again in the coming days, just so we can get more folks signed up to use the app. But we do have our own app now. So again, I just want to close in saying that the technology department seemed to grow a whole lot this year, and it's because everybody become part of it. Technology is driving a lot, but I'm thankful for all the folks in the office, all the directors and things that work there with us, all the teachers and staff and administrators that are in the schools. Everybody's become part of the technology department, it seems. Everybody's willing to roll their sleeves up and do whatever it takes to ensure that our students have what they need and that we give them the best experience we possibly can. And I stand before you tonight proud to be part of that team, simply because I think if you stack us up and compare us to anybody else around, we're doing it just as good, if not better. And is it perfect? Not by any means. You know, nobody's really in this situation expecting it to be perfect, but I think we all pull together and do what needs to be done. Sometimes we probably act like a dysfunctional family in the school board office. Dr. Mones probably feels like that, but you know, at the same time, I couldn't be more proud to be of a team that does whatever it takes, and a school division that does whatever it takes to do the best we possibly can for our kids. So thank you all.
Scott, thank you so much for providing oversight over all this stuff. That's a lot to get done, and we appreciate your efforts and your expertise in keeping us caught up and your foresight. How many people do you say will be added to the Starlink, possibly?
We were able to connect 45 homes as part of this beta project.
Right.
We have hopes. Initially, when we started this, 45 now, 45 later, but that 45 has come to, hey, can we do 90 more? Because, you know, we do have some students who live in areas of this county that this is going to be their only option to have high-speed internet access to them. They're, you know, like I said, folks who don't live where there's cellular service enough to support a hotspot. We've got folks living in areas where, you know, Comcast and Point Broadband and Scott County Telephone Cooperative or Hillcom or any of the other service providers can reach. Everyone around is doing all they can to get people connected, but like I said, some of that build out and stuff takes time. And unfortunately, right now, we don't have time. We need it now. And so, you know, this solution worked well for us, and we hope to expand that You know, I've done some interviews and had some folks ask, you know, what's the big picture? And I said, you know, obviously as a technology director for Wise County Schools, I want to see our students serve first. But I hope that this grows outside the boundaries of Wise County and goes to serve all the students that are in need, just like our students were. So. But yeah, we are hoping, and we've got no promise, we've got no indication that it will grow. I think they're going to wait and watch and see how our first 45 go.
Right.
And if it goes well, then our hope, and as that gets into motion, they're launching more low orbit satellites to support more people all around the country and around the world. So we're hoping to see it grow.
Thank you.
What part of Wise County is this going to be?
The 45 homes, and we did identify those based on surveys that were done at the beginning of the school year as part of our return to school, as well as a survey that I did in December to identify. But it was 45 homes. And basically, if I was going to paint a picture, I should have loaded one up. But from Norton to Coburn, if you go side to side, Norton to Coburn, from High Knob back here to about Birchfield, was the area that we were asked to find 45 homes in. So we're hoping to expand on to 90, and that would be about that half moon that kind of goes from St. Paul, rainbow going from St. Paul, around 72 from Coburn to Pound, and back down Appalachia and Big Stone Gap area. So, we're hoping to be able to expand that, as soon as possible.
Other questions from the board? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Mullins, the 10.3, the COVID update.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I would like at this time to share some information with you in regards to regional and local health metrics, as well as some additional information from the VDH, the CDC, and the Lenawisco Health District. As is the case throughout the Southwest region, our numbers here in Wise County continue to be elevated. And you'll find this is the case throughout the Southwest region. Our case incidence per 100,000 currently is at 87.2, and our 7-day average percent positivity is about 26%. And as I said, you'll find similar numbers throughout our region. You'll find some higher than that in many counties, and you'll find in some they're a little bit lower. But one of the things that I want to share with you tonight is, during the almost a year now, 10 months that we've been working our way through this pandemic, some of the initial thoughts and some of the initial information that was shared with us as we have moved through this, and we have an opportunity to look back at the data made available to us. Some of the approaches to how school divisions do things, have sort of changed as we've moved through this process. Data from the VDH indicates that cases in Virginia school divisions there are cases occurring in school divisions regardless of whether the instruction is offered virtually or in person. Some of the data also indicates certainly that strong school safety plans greatly reduces the risk of transmission, and most school-associated transmissions have occurred either outside the schools or due to students and personnel not adhering to masking protocols. Those seem to be the two driving factors, is that the cases are occurring outside our walls, or if they're occurring in buildings throughout the Commonwealth, it's because of the poor use of masks. Data also indicates that case data for localities should be tracked as one of the general points of information, but not necessarily an on-off switch to opening and closing and virtual and in-person and hybrid. And I think we've seen that play out in the divisions that have elected to go back to school, is that it's an important data piece for sure, but it's not the only piece that should be considered when we make decisions about whether or not to be in person or all virtual. And certainly, as I've shared with you previously, you know, I commend you and your efforts to take in as much information as you can. And I know you interact with members of the public, you interact with members from the healthcare sector, and I think you interact with those that you serve throughout the county. And I think you have utilized a lot of different data points to try to arrive at decisions. The one thing we know is that there is no possibility that we can create a risk-free environment for our students to learn and our employees to work in. That's just not a possibility. And quite frankly, that's the case on sort of a different level when we're not in the midst of a pandemic. You know, there always will be risk associated when we have the number of students we have and the number of staff members that we have interacting in our buildings. There are also always certain risk. But just a couple of things that I want to point out is the overwhelming evidence supports the view that schools have been and can be quite safe when infection control protocols are implemented and adhered to. And I certainly want to brag on our administrators, our teachers, our custodial staffs, our cafeteria, our bus drivers. We have asked all of them to go above and beyond in terms of cleaning and disinfecting and making sure that students and staff are wearing masks. And they've done that. They've done a remarkable job. And our parents have been partners with this because our students come to school. They wear their mask, they wash their hands, they keep their distance, and certainly without that support from home, that would be a difficult task for school personnel. But everyone working together, I think, have helped us create very safe environments in our buildings. And you know, the American Academy of Pediatrics points out that when you close schools, they're also, and we're certainly already well aware of this, but they've just in one of the recent reports they came out with, they talked about the negative impacts, not only to learning, but you know, the social and emotional impacts, depression, anxiety, and those types of things in students who have not had the opportunity to return to school. And we find this in divisions. You know, we have some divisions in the state that have not been in school at all to this point. And those are some of the things that they're dealing with in those school divisions. And of course, the AAP, as the CDC, they point out that social distancing and the use of face coverings are both keys to mitigating the risk and allowing students to attend school in person. And of course, we have continually, our office has become, we do a lot of different things, and our staff has been wonderful in working with our schools, but you know, we've switched from SOLs and preparation and now we do a lot of contact tracing, we do a lot of dissemination of cleaning materials and supplies and masks, and so we've had to sort of switch to now we monitor data. We try to make sure that our staffs are such that we can have effective programs in our buildings, making sure that anything that's needed in our schools to help keep our students and staff safe, we spend a lot of time making sure that that's possible and that we provide them all that they need. And as I said earlier, and I've shared with you on multiple occasions, when we've had positive cases, and we certainly have in both our students and staff, and we will continue to have as long as this pandemic is part of our lives. But when we look at when they occur, where they occur, you know, the evidence overwhelmingly points to it's not occurring in our schools. And so I do, again, want to thank you and all that you've done, because I know you have to have lots of conversations with lots of individuals in the public sector and parents and students probably at times. And you have to carefully weigh a lot of different pieces of data But I think by allowing our students whose families feel like we're the best environment for them, I think there's a real plus to that. And again, as I've always pointed out, for those families that don't feel like that the in-person environment is the right situation for them at this time and their children, then certainly we offer that all virtual option. And so, again, I applaud you for your support of our learning plan and your vigilance in looking at so much information that's moving and shifting and swirling every day. But so far it's worked. We've not had outbreaks. We have had cases, but we've been able to continue with that in-person learning and some of the activities that students have come to expect as being somewhat a semi-normal part of their lives. And I think those that have the opportunity to attend in person are very appreciative of it. And I think that's why we find that they're doing those things that we ask. And so we will continue to provide you with all the information. Of course, we share any cases, positive cases we have, not only with our board, but with the public each day. And we've tried to be open and transparent with that. But I do think that what we have in place is working. And as long as we'll continue to do those things as necessary, I think we'll be able to continue. So just sort of an overview of where we at and how we got here and how we expect maybe to be able to move forward. If you have any questions, certainly be glad to try to answer them. But that's where we are right now. And again, I just wanted to make sure that I bragged on how well our personnel and our students are doing with the plan we have in place.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, let's continue on to 10.4, the Family Leave Coronavirus Response Act.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as you are aware, the FFCRA Act provided us with the opportunity to provide our employees with 10 days of leave for COVID-related reasons. And before Christmas break, that's what we did when we would get a case come into the office, either a positive case or a quarantine situation. Then Ms. Shoup and her staff, Ms. Short, one of the things they did was to make sure that we got documentation that we entered those days and as COVID days, and we tried to make sure that we helped our staff in that regard. The provisions that we were working under during the first or up until Christmas break, those provisions ended on the 31st of December. And they were not part of the new act that the president signed into law. He signed it into law on the 27th of December. That actually began on January 1. And one of the first thoughts we had as we began to think about our employees is that the undue hardship that could potentially put on them. And we feel like it's important for our division to make this available to our employees if at all possible. And we feel like we can fund this option. Primarily, one of the factors is that our substitute teacher fund is not being overly impacted to this point, and the possibility of some additional federal and state dollars through the CARES Act funding may be made available to us with enough flexibility to use in some different ways. But what we have shared is we feel like that all of our employees should be eligible for those 10 COVID days during this school year. And certainly we had some that used some of those days before Christmas break. And we know there's no question we will have some that need some of these days this year, this semester. And again, we don't have the same flexibility now as we did, but we do feel like it's important that we offer at least the 10 days to all employees. And so one of the things that I will share with you is that when the pandemic first began, the 14-day quarantine model sort of has been the gold standard. And if you read the latest information from CDC, it is still the gold standard. But back in the first week of December, the CDC released some information entitled Options to Reduce Quarantine for Contacts of Persons with COVID Infections Using Symptoms Monitoring and Diagnostic Testing. And this document stated that if ample testing is available, that those identified as a contact can be tested on that 5th day of quarantine. And if they're negative, they can return 48 hours later. So there would be a total of 7 days, a 7-day period, but there would only be 5 school days in that 7-day period. And so those individuals, if they were identified as a contact, they went, they quarantined, the 5th day they got tested, negative, then they could return and use 5 of those COVID days. So they could actually be in a couple of those situations and still not have to use any of their own sick days. Now, the second part of that is if you're a contact and you go get tested on day 5 and you are positive, then you would quarantine for additional 7 days after that positive test, which would be a total of 12 days, but it would only be 10 works days or school days. And so you would still have that COVID Act leave would cover you in the event that you were positive. Now, there's another part of that if you're identified as a contact, you can quarantine for 10 days without testing at all. And if you have no symptoms, then you can come back at the end of that 10-day period. Now, that could potentially be 8 school days, which would take up most of the COVID leave. The better choice is the first 2. You know, if you're a contact, wait 5 days, you get tested. If no symptom, if you get a negative test, 48 hours, you can come back, which would only be 5 days. And I know all of this sort of runs together, but, you know, we've been, especially some members of our staff, deal with this so frequently, it's become, with Joyce's help, it's become part of what we do each day. But Mr. Chair, members of the board, I just think this action would allow us to provide our staff with 10 COVID days. And some divisions, I will share, have decided not to do this, or maybe they've decided that it's not possible for them to do this. But we feel like it's very important, as it could certainly help our employees. At the very least, would allow them 10 days before moving into their regular sick days or unpaid days. And we just think it's the right thing to do. You know, certainly none of us wanted a pandemic to occur. And, you know, it may be that we have a staff member that has had some other serious medical issue and maybe don't have many sick days left. And this would allow them some protection, or a relatively new teacher that maybe have not accumulated a number of sick days. This would certainly help them as well. But we just feel like that it's a very positive thing. It's something that we need to do if we possibly could do it. And we think that our employees certainly are worthy of it if we can do it. So are there any questions that I can answer for you? I will say this, you know, in the event that someone, you know, perhaps may be involved in 2 or 3 of these types of situations where they would be identified as a contact, it certainly wouldn't cover all of those days if they were, you know, identified as a contact 3 different occasions, or if they were positive and then later on was a contact. But it at least gives everyone 10 days. You know, we don't think we can offer it just any number that anyone would need. That certainly wouldn't be something that we would from a fiscal standpoint, be able to do. But the 10 days gives everyone at least that cushion. And for most, that would probably cover any situation that they would be involved in. So any questions that I might could answer for you?
With the original program where they were offered the 10 days up until, I think you said December 31st.
Right.
If that was something they had not used in that time, was that something that could be carried over, or did it just simply end on the 31st?
It just ended,
Yeah.
but this one carried over.
Okay.
Is there any funding left out of the last amount of CARES money we got?
Yes.
Then you could use that money to cover some of this.
Yes, if we needed to, yes.
We began to hear some, Mr. Short, as a follow-up to your question, we've certainly began to hear about the potential for some additional federal funding, and we were notified that that's going to occur. Now, we don't have a lot of the specifics about what amount of flexibility we have in terms of how it can be utilized. Is it going to be like the first round of CARES dollars we got? Is it going to be many more strings attached? And so we will share that with the board. We should have that information before we meet again, but we're just beginning to hear about this latest round of dollars. And if we get to inauguration and we get President Biden seated, he's made some comments regarding that he feels like that may be necessary to provide public education some additional dollars. We don't know that, but that's just something that he's mentioned in some of his conversations and information he shared with the public. So hopefully we will have that for you, a little bit better idea of the total amount and how that can be spent at our next meeting.
But we do have the funds to, at least for the immediate future, to sustain this.
Yes, yes.
Other questions from the board? Okay, let's leave discussion and go down to action. Is there a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation for employment as presented?
So moved.
And is there a second?
My second.
Those in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendations for employment, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. 11.2, the 10-point grading scale. We discussed this at the last meeting. And let's see, we have, is there a motion to approve and implement the 10-point grading scale as presented?
So moved.
Okay, John.
Second.
And Philip is the second. Okay. So we have a motion and a second for this. And for those in favor of approving the 10-point grading scale, let it be known by aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries and the scale is approved. But that, I have after the thought question, will that go into effect pretty soon?
We're going to effect next fall.
Okay. The 11.3, the Virginia School Board Association Code of Conduct for School Board Members. Is there a motion to approve the VSBA Code of Conduct?
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
Those in favor of approving the VSBA Code of Conduct for School Board Members, let it be known by aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Let's continue with 11.4, the VSBA Code of Conduct for School Board Clerks. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Okay. Mark, and is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor of approving the VSBA Code of Conduct for clerks, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Last item under action, 11.5, the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, which we just finished discussing a few moments ago. Is there a motion to approve the FFCRA Leave Act?
So moved.
Okay, let's give that to John. It's pretty close, I tell you. And is there a second?
Second.
Mark, you got the second on that one. So, those in favor of approving the FFCRA Leave Act, let it be known by aye. Aye. And those opposed, no. And the motion carries. Let's go on to item 12, general information. We have the Statement of Economic Interest, Conflict of Interest document to turn to our clerk. I don't think everyone has yet, but you would take it as soon as you can get it, right? Okay. Anything else? And let's go to item 14, any new items? Okay, let's go to board comments, and first comment of the year, Miss Vicki.
Well, congratulations, Technology Department. You've helped everyone, including myself. I would like to wish Donnie's Kern a speedy recovery. She gave me permission to tell everyone. She has COVID now. It can happen to anyone. So follow all the procedures, and as far as I'm concerned, please get your vaccination. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms.
Certainly
Martha?
trying to get mine.
Yes, ma'am, we all need to get them. Martha?
I want to congratulate the retirees that we had tonight, to be commended for the job well done, and also just kudos to our technical department. They never cease to amaze us. It just, when I think of what they have done since all this began, and the things they accomplished, it just boggles my mind, and I just want you guys to know I appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Herb?
I'd also like to congratulate our two employees who have spent so much time with the school system on their retirement, and the best of luck in the future. And again to Dr. Kaiser and his staff for all the work they've done on technology, and maybe I'll get that email from CDC. Sign up for the
I'm looking for mine too.
They keep saying it's there, but I haven't found it yet.
Oh, man.
And Happy New Year's to everybody.
John?
I also want to say a good word about the technology department, and also the retirees. We're going to lose some good people there, and I hope everybody stays safe.
Yes. Mark?
No comment tonight.
No comment?
I'll just say I'd like to thank all the staff, all the employees of Wise County School System. They're all doing a wonderful job, working together and getting the job done. Of course, I've had the privilege of helping virtual learning students in our family, and I see it firsthand, so they're doing a great job. Good teachers, too.
By all means, yes. I'd like to congratulate our retirees and for the many years of service that they've done to, all their efforts went into make Wise County School what it is. It takes everybody's part, and no matter what you do. And I'm so proud of our retirees that spent the time with us. And again, we've done this once, but I want to thank Scott Kaiser and company for doing all they do for our technology efforts. Seems like anymore, everything is digital and technologically defined, and it's hard. I can check email, and I can maybe handle the iPhone a little bit without punching the wrong button, but that's about it. That's about all I can do. And I want to thank all of our staff members and all of our administrators, teachers, support staff, in doing what they do to make it possible for us to continue our in-person program. I think it's very important, and I appreciate everybody has a part in making it a possible thing for us to do. And having completed our agenda, let's see, before I say the magic words, next meeting will be on Tuesday, February the 9th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Second Tuesday, February the 9th. Okay. So unless something urgent happens, we'll see you then, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.